Betrayal number 10. Supporting beef trade in several states. After the supply of beef was disrupted in Goa following tightened regulations on cattle slaughter in Karnataka, Goa's BJP Chief Minister Pramod Sawant publicly came out to promise that his government would make arrangements to restore the supply of beef in the state. Goa isn't the only state where BJP has shown its hypocrisy on the beef issue. Similarly, in Kerala, BJP leader N. Sri Prakash had promised good quality beef if he were to be elected. In Assam, a BJP candidate, Banendra Kumar Mushahari, went as far as to claim that beef is India's national food. This repeated behavior of promoting beef in some states while opposing it in others clearly shows that the party has no single ideological or moral stance on this issue. Betrayal number 9. Welcoming TMC Goons accused of murdering Hindu workers into the party. In the run-up to the 2021 Bengal Assembly elections, 34 MLAs from the TMC left their party and joined the BJP. Apart from the blatant hypocrisy of taking in so many turncoats from a party which they have repeatedly termed anti-Hindu for so long, many of these leaders are actually accused in the gruesome murders of Hindu ground workers from the BJP. One such leader who has been welcomed with a red carpet into the BJP is Babu Master, aka Firoz Kamal Ghazi, who is an accused in the infamous murder of BJP worker Pradeep Mondal. Pradeep was killed in a clash in which 3 BJP workers were shot dead. Will the families of those dead party workers ever get justice now that their assailants are themselves in the BJP? Common sense tells otherwise. Betrayal number 8. Dragging their feet on CAA-NRC. After a strong push on the Citizenship Amendment Act in 2019, with claims that it would make life easier for perhaps millions of Hindu refugees and their descendants in India, the whole thing has turned out to be incredibly underwhelming. The ruling NDA government has still not notified the CAA rules, and due to the lack of support shown by the government towards Hindu and Sikh refugees, many hundreds of them were forced to return to Pakistan. The refugees also claimed that government officials were harassing them and making them run pillar to post for their visas. What's more, even in Assam, where the final NRC has already been published and 1.9 million people have not been included in the list, and another 136,000 in total have been finally confirmed to be foreigners by the foreigners tribunals, only a few hundred deportations have actually taken place. Such a minuscule number of deportations in the face of millions of illegals does not even create a dent in the problem. On top of that, many of those who have found their names excluded from the final NRC are Bengali Hindus and Hindus from other communities such as Koch Rajbangshis. Some have even claimed that the majority of those who have been put into detention camps for declared foreigners are actually Hindus. Data released by the government itself showed that out of 30 deaths taking place in such camps, 16 were those of Hindus and 14 were those of Muslims. This is a small sample size, but it certainly points to the fact that a sizable proportion, and even perhaps an outright majority, of those being detained in terrible conditions in these camps are Hindus. Betrayal number 7. Crippling other Hindu organizations. Ever since Modi's dominance within the BJP has become unquestioned and unparalleled, there has been a precipitous decline in the influence of other Hindu outfits, particularly those who work on the ground, like the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and the Bajrang Dal, among others. Praveen Togadia, known for being one of the foremost champions of Hindu rights from Gujarat, was over the years sidelined by the Modi government in the state, even as Modi reaped the rewards of the hardline Hindutva image, which was actually more due to people like Togadia than Modi. What is more, Togadia had to resign from his position as the international head of the VHP due to the fact that he lost its internal elections because of the immense power and clout of Modi supporters, who did not like his questioning of the central government. Betrayal number 6. Keeping NCERT books unchanged. It is well known that our NCERT books spend a disproportionate amount of space on the history of Mughals and other such Islamic invaders of the subcontinent, and downplay their atrocities and overplay their virtues. Thus, Hindu voters of the BJP were really hopeful that the history syllabus of NCERT textbooks, which was hijacked by leftists and Islamists, would be changed to be more reflective of India's Hindu past and how our forefathers had to bear the brunt of violent Islamic invasions. But alas, that was not to be. Not only has the government neglected to make necessary changes in NCERT history textbooks, they seem to be proud of the fact. Former HRD Minister Prakash Javadekar had openly proclaimed in 2018 that the government did not change a single chapter of history in 4 years. This goes to show the seriousness of the Modi government in setting the right cultural narrative. Betrayal number 5. Squeezing the middle class. In a recent study, the Pew Research Center revealed that 32 million, or about 1/3 of India's middle class, had fallen out of the said category due to the steep economic decline associated with the coronavirus lockdowns. Of the global decline in the middle class during the pandemic, 60% of it was contributed to by India. And even before all of this, the Indian middle class was already feeling terribly squeezed and under pressure. Let me explain how. During the years of the UPA, taxes and other charges on fuel were around 49% of the total price you paid at the petrol pump. In 2021, under the Modi government, that number is hovering around 67%. Instead of allowing a decline in international prices of crude oil to benefit the middle class, the government has used it as an opportunity to get even more money out of them. Apart from the increased taxes on fuel, we have also seen an increase in the gold import duty from 10% to 12.5%, an introduction of a long-term capital gains tax of 10% on equities, a hike in the dividend distribution tax, and many other such increases in taxes and cesses. What's more, if you thought you could get away by keeping your money stashed in fixed deposits or the Provident Fund, even that is becoming an increasingly unattractive solution. The maximum amount being returned by SBI fixed deposits right now is only 5.4%, while it used to be 9% in the UPA era. Moreover, in the most recent budget, interest on Provident Fund contributions of more than 2.5 lakh rupees per year has been made taxable, dealing another blow to the aspirations of the middle class to safely grow their wealth. In fact, a recent circular released by the government, which was quickly redacted amidst widespread criticism, proclaimed that the interest rates on small savings schemes would be slashed, with the public provident fund rate being reduced from 7.1% to 6.4%. Even though the government claimed that this order was issued due to an oversight, it really goes to show what is in store and will likely follow once ongoing assembly elections are over. Betrayal number 4. Restricting Hindu festivals. 2020 saw a more ruthless crackdown on the celebration of Hindu festivals than ever before, with several damning incidents from BJP-ruled states. COVID-19 protocols, environmental concerns, and public safety were used as excuses to blatantly target Hindu religious celebrations. In Bihar's Munger town, an 18-year-old boy, Anurag Poddar, was shot dead in what locals claimed was police firing intended to violently disperse a Durga Puja procession. Police lathis and bullets also left many other devotees injured in this incident. In Haryana, a former councillor from the BJP was harassed by the police and a case was registered against him and his daughter for selling Diwali firecrackers. He was left so perturbed that he decided to take his own life by jumping into a canal. A friend of his who tried to save him also drowned in this incident. In Delhi, where the police also comes under the BJP-run Union Home Ministry, 850 people were arrested by the police for bursting firecrackers on Diwali. In another case, this time in UP, a video went viral showing a man's makeshift firecracker stall being left in shambles by the police, who then proceeded to arrest him even as his minor daughter was crying and pleading with them and even banging her head on their vehicle to let him go. Even though the police later on tried to make up for their brutality by releasing the father and turning up with sweets at the family's house, this incident is just one of possibly many such incidents where a heavy-handed approach was used to destroy small informal Hindu businesses selling firecrackers. Betrayal number 3. reinstating the draconian provisions of the SC/ST Act. In May 2018, a division bench of the Supreme Court had ruled that there would be no automatic arrest of an accused in an SC/ST Act case, and the bench also allowed for the introduction of anticipatory bail in such cases. Sounds reasonable, isn't it? To you and me, maybe, but not to the Modi government. The centre challenged this verdict in court and then came out with an amendment in parliament, thereby reversing the court's order. This amendment was then upheld by the Supreme Court and we went back to square one. As things stand, a person accused under the SC/ST Act can be arrested on a mere complaint, without any preliminary inquiry, without any prima facie case, with no chance of even getting anticipatory bail. What's worse is that the Modi government is also incentivizing fake complaints under the SC/ST Act. It enhanced the amount of compensation payable by the government to complainants under the SC/ST Act from a range of 60,000 to 5 lakh to a range of 1 lakh to 8.5 lakh, and also vastly increased the number of offences to which this compensation applies. Mind you, this is not some compensation which is paid out after the conviction. The money is supposed to be paid out within 7 days of the incident being reported. This makes it incredibly easy for false accusers to not only jail an innocent person but also make off with a handsome sum of money while the case remains pending in the complex maze that is the Indian legal system. Betrayal number 2, introducing private sector reservations. Under Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, the BJP government in Haryana has brought about a policy of 75% reservation for jobs paying less than 50,000 rupees in the private sector in the state. Undoubtedly, if this policy is implemented with any level of seriousness on the ground, then it would utterly decimate the clusters of businesses and startups which have come up in Gurgaon and its surrounding areas. Companies would move out from the state, many people would lose their jobs, and last but not the least, a terrible precedent would have been created for other states to over-interfere in the hiring practices of private companies. Similarly, in Uttar Pradesh, a new policy of the state's BJP-run government makes it mandatory for private companies in Noida to hire at least 40% of their employees locally, which again puts an undue strain on privately owned businesses and sets a bad precedent. Betrayal number 1, taking over Hindu temples. Under former Chief Minister Trivendra Singh Rawat, the Uttarakhand BJP government passed the Char Dham Devasthanam Act to forcibly take control of 51 Hindu temples, including some of the most important religious shrines of the entire Hindu faith such as Kedarnath and Badrinath. Despite the traditional priests of these temples holding strong protests against the government's efforts to take over these temples, nothing was done to assuage their concerns. What's more, the government passed a law to ban protests within 200 meters of the Kedarnath shrine, in a further crackdown against said priests. But it is not only in Uttarakhand that the BJP has shown its hypocrisy on the issue of freeing Hindu temples. In Karnataka, BJP had promised in its 2018 manifesto that if it came to power, it would ensure no government interference in temple administration. But what actually happened when it managed to get into power once again? Well, for one thing, no temples which were already under government control were freed and returned to either the priests or the Hindu devotees. What's worse is that the Karnataka BJP government even tried to get more temples under the purview of the local administration. In Chikmagaluru district, an order was issued to private temples in February 2021 that they needed to compulsorily register themselves with the government with all details of their bank accounts and assets. This not so subtle move to interfere with privately held Hindu temples in the district was only put on hold after a massive social media outcry against the state government. But considering the party's repeated behavior against the independence of Hindu temples, it does not bode well for what might occur in the future. With that, we'll conclude this video, guys. If you enjoyed watching, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon for more such content in the future. Thank you and goodbye.